Welcome to Neighborhood Update. This year, Cape Verdean Americans will celebrate 50 years of independence. What a milestone. For some Cape Verdean immigrants, they sailed to this country on the Ernestina. The Ernestina was returned in 1982 as a gift to newly independent Cape Verdean people. The Ernestina was given up due to costly needed repairs, but the love and dedication to her never wavered. In 2023, after years of efforts to restore her through fundraising and legislative support, she sailed back to the port of New Bedford for her official homecoming. Now the ship is operated by Mass Maritime Academy. With me to discuss the Ernestina-Morrissey is Captain Tiffany Krihwan? Krihwan. Welcome.
Welcome. Nice to meet you.
And I am pronouncing it correctly, Krihwan?
Krihwan.
Okay. It's nice to see a woman as captain. How long have you been a captain?
I have been a licensed captain 29 years now and working on ships like Ernestina-Morrissey 28 years.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I grew up in the Great Lakes. I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania. Started sailing little boats when I was 10 years old. Took sailing lessons at the place where my grandfather kept his own power vessel. And for me, all of us kids, we took lessons, but for me it really took. I just really fell in love with being on the water and sailing. And so I turned it into a career. And my boats just keep getting bigger.
Excellent. Could you provide a brief summary for our viewers today of the ship's history?
Yeah, sure. So she was originally launched in 1894 in Essex, Massachusetts, and then went to Gloucester to finish out her uprigging and set sail to sail the Grand Banks that year. And from there on, for the next 20-odd years, she was fishing the Grand Banks out of Gloucester, Massachusetts. And then she went up to Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, was taking supplies back and forth, and also continued her fishing career for another 20-ish years. And that's where Captain Bob Bartlett, who was a polar explorer with Perry going up to the North Pole, noticed the vessel. His cousin or uncle had the vessel for fishing, and he purchased her for his own exploration up to the Arctic, and then outfitted her for that. Her first power, meaning engine, was installed, and every summer he would take a bunch of scientists and young men to go up there and explore the Arctic area, Newfoundland, Greenland, Labrador, all of that. And then during World War II, the ship served, finding locations, taking service people up there to find locations for air bases for our Air Force. So she served in World War II efforts as well. And then unfortunately, Captain Bob Bartlett passed away in '48, and the boat was in need of repair at that time. There were some brothers that purchased her in hopes of taking her to the South Pacific and doing a lot of taking supplies back and forth between those islands. Unfortunately, it was too much of a boat for them, too big for them to handle. She did have a fire while she was in New York, and to put the fire out, it was in the galley, which is the kitchen. The firefighters just kind of swamped the boat, and so she sunk and was raised and brought up to New Bedford, where Captain Mendez found, well, I think he found her when she was still in Connecticut after the fire. Brought her up to New Bedford, got her fitted for sea, removed the engine, and then sailed back to Cape Verde. And he did that about a little less than a dozen times from the 1948 or 49 until 65. And so sailing supplies back and forth, supplies to Cape Verde were often like clothes and other things, and school supplies, and then back were some produce, beans, that sort of thing, and also people that were migrating back and forth between the two countries.
So Ernestina has been around. She has moved around a lot, and she's been through a lot. And so in moving around, there are several places that claim her as their own, but here in New Bedford, there's a special love and passion for this vessel. As I stated in the opening, this summer there'll be quite a lot of celebrations around the 50-year anniversary. Will the Ernestina be part of any festivities?
As of right now, we're still working through those details, but she's scheduled to be open for deck tours on July 5th.
Awesome, awesome. That's right around the time of the celebrations. What are some of let's talk about the name, because here in New Bedford, she is fondly referred to as Ernestina, but on the website I see Ernestina-Morrissey. So will you tell us about the name and how she became the Ernestina-Morrissey, and does she have any other names?
Well, when she was originally launched in 1894, she was named Effie M. Morrissey. The first captain was William Morrissey, and he named it after his daughter. And she had that name all the way until 49. And then when Captain Mendez found her and took her back to Cape Verde, he named her after his daughter, Ernestina. And she sailed under that name for quite a while, even while she was back here in New Bedford. But during this last restoration of her, which was 7 years, a lot of that because of the pandemic, it was decided to incorporate both names. And so she is the Ernestina-Morrissey.
What are some of the additional plans for this ship?
In the immediate future is we have a lot going on. We have cadets on this summer literally learning the ropes and servicing as junior officers on board. We'll also have high school students on as well, doing some STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math programs from students from Massachusetts and throughout the New Bedford area and beyond. In fact, our one program that's geared towards women or non-binary is a STEAM program, and we'll take them out for 4 days, 3 nights. We still have room on that. We can get information out. We're still accepting applications, and we have some other programs with the Community Boating Center as well, taking their students out and working with some other individuals to get high school students out on board.
So you said that you are still accepting applications. If there's anybody watching today, I'm sure this is a wonderful and exciting opportunity for young people. Is there a number, or how would they get in contact with you?
They can reach me through the Academy. My information's there, or you can also follow the ship on Facebook, SSV Ernestina-Morrissey, and we post all the information up there.
Okay, so we will get that on the screen as well. I'm sure, Captain, maintaining the ship, depreciation must be costly. What does the future hold for the ship, both in the near and distant future?
Again, near future, we're doing those programs, and then we're off to the Great Lakes, where we're partaking in the Great Lakes Challenge, where we'll be in port events, where we're being hired to be there to represent Massachusetts.
That's great.
With our cadets. And people get to see the history, not just one aspect of her history, but her whole history. I mean, she was a gift to the people of the United States, and so she's going to tell the whole story of that existence, the fishing years, the polar exploration, the Cape Verde, when she came back from Cape Verde in '82, her educational mission, and it's still the same educational mission, it's just going through the Academy now.
What are some of the objectives that you have set for the ship?
One of my big objectives is to get young people from this area and throughout the state, because she is the Commonwealth ship, meaningful experience. So just doing a deck tour is a wonderful way to be introduced to the ship, but for them to have a real meaningful experience, they need to go to sea for a little bit.
Oh, that's going to be amazing.
And so my objective is to get young people that experience, and it pushes them a little bit past their comfort levels.
Absolutely.
And gets them out of their areas, but they do see life differently afterwards. I've had parents, I've been doing this a long time, I've had parents say to me afterwards, like, I can't believe the change I can see in my own child. And I can witness when they step on the ship and when they leave the ship, they've built a lot of confidence. They've understand community, much more so teamwork, but they find a lot of self-independence.
And so how long, what is the time frame for this experience? How long would they be on the ship as part of this whole experience?
It'll vary. Anything that's more than 3 days, 4 nights, we're starting to get them into the rhythm of ship life and finding community and finding that empowerment. Anything longer than that is even better. I personally like 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks is a great amount of time, but trying to squeeze that in between all the other obligation is hard.
Right. I wouldn't mind doing that venture myself. How many members of the general public are involved with the ship? How can members of the general public, be involved with the ship?
Sure. So we do have quarterly meetings because we are a state entity open to the public through Zoom. We have one coming up the 18th. We also have a community New Bedford meeting on the 12th at the public library at 1 o'clock as well. So we're going to just give an update of what we're doing this summer, how to be involved. The Academy itself, we don't take volunteers, but Schooner Ernestina-Morrissey Advisory is in a place to help us take those volunteers. So we're working through those details right now and having a memo of understanding with them. So then they can kind of vet the volunteers. And there might, I think in the past they had like a membership fee to be one of the volunteers to help the not-for-profit side of the ship. The ship is very expensive to operate.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And I'm sure that's always a concern.
It is. Yep.
So we've already talked about the volunteers, and you've talked a bit about education and students. How do students, do they receive that information, and is the information in different languages? Do they get it through their guidance counselors? How do they get it in the schools?
One part we're working with Buzzards Bay Coalition, so we're one of their objectives. We do day programs, and we're going to try and target all the 8th graders in New Bedford, so they have a day experience on board, learning about...
All 8th graders?
I think that's the eventual goal through the spring and fall, getting 8th graders on board. Again, this is through the Buzzards Bay Coalition. If it's in other languages, I know some things are in Spanish. Beyond that, I don't know. Like our STEAM program, we're making sure we have somebody that speaks Spanish for the students that that English isn't their first language where Spanish is. So we are trying to accommodate those needs.
When will the ship be ready for tours to the public?
Well, we're not open for tours on like a regular basis for special occasions. Right now, I think July 5th is our first one that we have.
That will be the first one?
Yep.
So they will be periodic, they will not be on a regular
Correct.
Basis.
Because we're out sailing almost every weekday, and then we do need days off too.
Right, absolutely.
And so then we're off and we're voyaging, so.
And how will that work? Will it be free? Do you have to?
The deck tours are usually free when they're here in New Bedford. And when we're outside New Bedford, like this trip we're going to the Great Lakes again, we are getting paid to be there.
So that is, as you said, it's very expensive to keep the ship going. So any way that you can earn some income for this ship,
Correct.
you've got to do that. And I'm sure you take donations, correct?
The Academy can take donations, and so can SEMA, Schooner Ernestina-Morrissey Advisory. They're a 501c3, and they use those funds. The intent, as I understand it, is to then help scholarship or underwrite other younger people's experiences on board.
There also is a Ernestina committee, correct?
Well, there's a Ernestina Advisory Board, so Schooner Ernestina-Morrissey Advisory Board. That's our public meeting. That is what was mandated by the governor
Okay.
when she was renamed, and they no longer had the commission It's the advisory board, and again, that meeting happens quarterly or sometimes more than that. And our next one is April 18th.
Okay,
and if you
so
go,
that's coming up very soon.
Yep.
And as you said, the public is welcome to attend
public
those
is welcome.
meetings.
Yep.
Okay. And your website, is it, how can someone watch and find your website?
Well, we're through the academy, so if you just go to maritime.edu, which is the academy's website, and if you just type in Ernestina-Morrissey, you'll come up with our page on there. Gives you a brief history on there, tells you when our next meetings are, that sort of thing.
I remember many years ago when the Morgan was here for a week, and it was phenomenal, and so much money was raised during that week. Do you ever foresee that with the Ernestina, that, well, you said that it's sailing too, but do you see where it might be more of a part of tourism? Is there a partnership with the Ernestina and the Department of Tourism for the city?
One of the members sits on the board, the advisory board for tourism. I'm not sure if they're city related or state related, but yep, that is part of it.
Because it seems like there's an opportunity there, maybe to utilize the ship more in a promotional way to generate some revenue for it.
Yep. Yeah, it's also that the ship's always there, so people, they just kind of take for granted what's in front of them every day, right? And so, like, we've been open for Cape Verde Independence Day the last 2 years, and combined only 500 people have toured the boat. So,
well, as I said, this year is the big 50-year anniversary. So we've got to make a great effort to make sure she's a beautiful, beautiful vessel, and I can't wait to get on that ship. So is there anything that we maybe didn't speak about related to the Ernestina that you might want to touch upon?
Just, her history is amazing. There's a couple really good books out there about her history. Phoenix of the Sea. That one really goes from the beginning all the way until the Academy received the vessel from the state. So it really outlines all of that. So here in New Bedford, a lot of people focus on just the Cape Verde time, but I would like for people to learn more of her history. Because again, when we go to the Great Lakes, or when we went down to the Gulf, been to Galveston, Texas, Pensacola, and St. Petersburg, we told all the stories. When you take a tour of the boat during a special event like that, we have placards out celebrating each of those little lives of Ernestina-Morrissey, like I mentioned earlier in the show. And so we would really love for people to realize that there's more to Ernestina than Ernestina. It's Ernestina-Morrissey for a reason, because it's all-encompassing.
So it'd probably be a great idea to do some presentations within the schools, and also maybe some readings from the books, and then for the students to find out that vessel is actually here, in our waterfront. That might generate, and the educational opportunities that they have as well. Do you think that the Ernestina-Morrissey, any plans of it sailing to Cape Verde again?
Yes, it is definitely in the works. But we have to, the ship just went through a multi-million-dollar restoration. It's not a production boat. It's a one-off. And so you really have to sail it and understand maybe where some of the shortcomings are in the design before you cross that ocean.
Right, absolutely.
Times are different.
That's right.
And you want to do it safely. We have every intent of doing it. We were hoping to do a longer trip this summer to really challenge the crew, the vessel. We would have been gone for 4 months, independent, not here local where all of our resources are. So,
how many passengers can the ship carry?
Well, for a day sail, if you come out for a few hours, We cap at about 65. We can have more than that, but it starts to get a little uncomfortable because you're really tight with everyone. And to sail the ship, to give you an idea how big the mainsail is, it's as big as a basketball court. If you want to spread it out,
Wow.
you have to do it on a basketball court.
That's phenomenal.
So it takes a lot of people to set it. It's over 6,000 pounds, and we only use block and tackle. We don't use any modern technologies to set that large sail. So that's why if we could have more people, but then it would be really crowded to do the actual sailing of the ship. And that's one of the things we really do. We get out there, set sail, turn off the engine, and make her go by wind alone.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. So July 5th, she will be open for tours.
Correct.
And do you know yet what the time?
I do not.
what the
I'm
time
working
frame
with
will be for that?
the committee for the Cape Verde Independence Celebration about what makes sense.
Well, we will look forward to that, and I'm sure the cable studio, their cameras will be there to capture that. I thank you, Captain Tiffany, for coming on today.
My pleasure.
And you are welcome to come on anytime to let us know what's new with the Ernestina-Morrissey. We would be more than happy to have you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you again. And thank you for watching the show today. And remember, July 5th, the Ernestina-Morrissey will be available for tours on the ship. So make sure you put that on your calendar. We thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's show, and we will see you next time on Neighborhood Update.